Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 83rd episode of Kouryer podcast. Today, I'm joined with Mr. Rob Green. He's a concept artist and illustrator currently working at Lucid Games studio from Liverpool, United Kingdom. Now, with that quick introduction out of the way, let's get down to the first question. Give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design.
But first off, thank you for having me. I was a little bit nervous at first. Well, I'm good now. Right, yeah. I don't know. I've pretty much just always had like a kind of drive to create things. Just always been into art in general. Just since birth, I was quite lucky in that respect. I didn't find it late. I just always knew that that was the way forward for me. I think around like age 5 or 6, I'd already been drawing a lot or whatever, but I've got like a distinct memory of like um, just kind of falling in love with it like properly, you know. Uh, if you're from if anyone listens from the UK, you probably know of a TV show called Art Attack, right? It's kind of like it's just required watching when you're a kid. Everyone watches Art Attack in the UK. That's just normal. And basically, he kind of started showing this like way of shading an object, so it had like a light and shadow side kind of thing, and that just blew my mind. I was like, it looks 3D. I wasn't thinking like that when I was like 6, but I was like, it looks 3D. It's got form. It looks good. So I tried it, and I was like, that looks real. What's going on there? Obviously, it didn't look real. I was 6 years old, but for a 6-year old, it was all right, you know. And so I don't know, yeah. From that point on, I was just drawing everything. Like I'd just be drawing constantly, drawing like I'd like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I don't know if you know Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'd just always copy all the cards and drawing like stuff from TV shows, games, stuff like that. I was just in love with it, and so basically my mum recognized that as well, and so she decided to put me and my sister in art lessons, kind of quite early on, which was like, yeah, I'm eternally grateful that I've got such supportive parents. That was like a good move on my mum's part. Uh, so yeah, like it was quite a small class. It was like maybe 4 or 5 kids or something at any one time. You know, it was good. So you got a lot of attention, and you know, we were kind of getting taught like basically the fundamentals like at a very early age. Like it's kind of learning to draw in perspective and a bit of color theory and stuff, like only the very basics of it, but it's like a good starting point, you know, to kind of build on top of when I decided to start taking it seriously. And so yeah, that was kind of, I don't know, I just never really stopped from that point. I just kept on going with it. And but as I also found a few other kind of creative outlets, you know, playing guitar and stuff like that, like video editing as well. My dad was into video editing. And he still is. He's just bought himself a drone. That's kind of cool. So yeah, it's just really good to have like dead supportive parents on that front. And so basically, I got to around age 13, and I remember I kind of stumbled across concept art for kind of the first time. Like I already had like a vague idea of it, but I think it was Feng Zhu that I discovered first. And you know about Feng Zhu, yeah. Uh, he's he's
Yeah, I know him, and all right.
yeah. His YouTube videos just inspired me so much. Like it kind of brought to light that it was like a viable career path, and it was really good timing as well. Like at that age, just to find out that I could do that at like maybe age 13 or 14. Um, so he kind of he kind of instilled a good work ethic in me, I think, because he kind of like he talks a lot about how hard you have to work and stuff, and like to get into the industry. It put me in like a good mindset to get in, but then we talked before this started recording about the negative aspects of when that mindset goes a little bit too far. But it is something that's necessary to adopt to get in. I think you need to really like you have to put a lot of effort into to do it to get there. But anyway, yeah. After discovering Feng Zhu, like the next Christmas, I was like, can I get a Wacom tablet for Christmas? To my parents, and they're like, what's that? But yeah, uh, from that point on, I was just constantly working on this, and eventually after maybe a year or two, because I already had like a good base to work from the art lessons. It didn't take me too long to get to like a reasonable skill level. It wasn't good, but it was like good enough to start getting a few commissions here and there, like little freelance illustration gigs and stuff. So um, yeah, I started doing a few of them, and I mean, I wasn't charging nearly enough money. Like, it was I didn't like when you first start, you don't know how much to charge, do you? Like, you don't know, like, no one really talks about specifics on that, or some people are starting to now, but I don't know. I think it's quite a taboo subject, so I was like, well, I'll just charge like £20 for an illustration that's going to take me like a week, which, considering I'm still living at home, that's fine. That's okay. Um, but obviously you can't live off that. Um, but that was like besides the money aspect, that was like a really good learning experience. Like learning how to deal with clients and how to work to a brief and kind of do it all in a relatively timely manner. Uh, yeah, that was a good learning experience. I had one of them moments where your skill jumps quite a bit when I started doing that stuff. Um, and then yeah, after high school, I was at a bit of a crossroads. I had kind of the option of kind of following my friends and doing in the UK we've got either A levels or B Tech, or you could do an apprenticeship, but A levels is kind of just the normal subjects. I would have probably done like uh, IT, physics, something like that, but it wouldn't have been to progress my career because it wasn't what I wanted to do. It would have just been to follow my friends, kind of thing. Um, but instead, the other option was there was a nearby college that was doing graphic design as a BTEC. So even though I kind of met a little bit of resistance, it was like, why are you doing that? You're cutting off all your options there. I was like, good, I'm going to cut off all my options. Art is the only option now. I'm just gonna roll with that. It's like it's art or nothing now. Like, so that was quite a big decision, but yeah, I decided to do that, and I got into college, and obviously graphic design is not concept art. It's not exactly what I wanted to do, but it was close, and it was local, so it's kind of, and when I say college as well, college in the UK is not, it's not the same as like college in other places. Like the equivalent to college in like America, for example, would be university in the UK. So it's kind of like between high school and university is when you go to college. Um, so yeah, I got there, and I was kind of like, I was essentially doing concept art and illustration in response to graphic design briefs, and any normal teacher would have just been like, why are you doing that? This isn't what we asked you to do some graphic design. um but actually, the teacher that I had was like really good. She was really supportive of that, and she just sort of like encouraged me to do that. She was like, listen, I'm still gonna mark you with high grades because what you're doing is like really good. It's not what specifically we asked, but I can see that that's what you want to do, so just go off and do it. You know what I mean? um and there was a big stroke of luck with that graphic design teacher, because it just so happened that her brother was working as a programmer in Lucid Games, and essentially she could see that I kind of had this drive to get into it and everything. I got to the end of the 2 years at college, and I was getting ready to go to university, and she just turned around to me and said, like, do you want? Sorry if you can hear that in the background. She turned around to me and said,
No, no,
"Do you
it's
want me
fine.
to?
It's fine.
Do you want me to put you forward, like put a word in? Like, do you want my brother to put a word in for you, and maybe you can get an interview out of it at Lucid Games?" And obviously, I was like, "Yeah, like that sounds amazing." And honestly, I think I was just so lucky there. Like, it's just my entire journey into art has just been a series of I've just been very lucky. I'm very fortunate. So I was about 17 at that point, and I actually ended up getting the interview at Lucid because they liked my portfolio. I've been working on it for quite a few years already, and I was so nervous for that, like, because it was kind of like, this is what I've been training my entire life for, you know. This is my moment, you know. And but yeah, they kind of hired me on the spot in the interview, and that was really good. And I've been working there ever since. And uh, since I've been working there, the company's practically tripled in size and everything. So I struck gold, you know. I got really lucky. I just kind of landed where I wanted to be just early on. And yeah, that kind of takes me to now, I guess. Uh, did you want to ask another question, or was it like, I can keep on going if you want?
No, no, no,
Like,
no, no. Yeah,
uh,
go on as long as you
sure,
want.
sure, sure. All right. So I mentioned before, like, the kind of the industry as a whole, kind of like, in order to get into the industry, it's really competitive. And I said to you before we started recording, like, I wanted to bring up kind of like the work life balance thing. I think there's an epidemic of people who just don't have good work life balance in the industry, and I was, until very recently, one of those people. And I think it starts very early on, when as soon as you realize how competitive the industry is, you start to adopt this mindset of, like, kind of self punishment in a way. It's like, I don't know, you're always looking down on yourself. There's like a little voice in the back of your head that's kind of telling you how pathetic you are if you don't work hard. And, like, you literally just, you're not doing the art from a positive point of view, where it's like, I just love doing this. You're doing it because you're scared to fail. You know what I mean? You just kind of, you're just forcing yourself into doing it because that's how you've adapted to get into the industry. You know what I mean? But that becomes unhealthy after a good few years of doing that, I think. Like, it's good to get you in the first place, but once you're in, I think you need to kind of lay off the gas pedal a little bit. Otherwise, you're just gonna spiral out a little bit. Like, it's that gets out of control, and you start, like, it only gets worse and worse until you snap out of that mindset, and you start kind of like, you stop showing compassion for yourself. You stop caring about yourself. And I realized that that's what I was doing when I kind of reached, like, a somewhat of a breaking point, a little bit, with how much work I was taking on. Like, I was, at the start of the pandemic, I was doing my full time job at Lucid, and that's fine. Lucid are really good with deadlines, and it's very rare that I ever have to stay late. They're an anomaly, you know. There's not many places in the industry that are so well managed in terms of, like, how, like, the workload on the staff. So that's great. Uh, but I decided, because I was stuck at home during COVID, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to take on some illustration jobs on the side. So I did that, and I picked up, like, a kind of semi long term illustration gig, um, and it just kind of eventually ended up being a bit much for me. I Like, it was fine for the first few months, but after maybe 6 months of doing that, I was maybe working 12 to 14 hours a day, like, every day, and I was working on the weekends as well. Just had no time for, like, anything else. I just I just lost myself into that job kind of thing. And I think, like, a lot of people say, if you're gonna, like, the only way to find where your limit is to actually encounter it. And I encountered my limit. Like, I came, like, I faced against it, like, head on. I was like, this is too much. I was like, I was really, I got to a point of, like, depression, and just constantly just being anxious all the time, and everything. It's like, this gotta give. I can't do this anymore. And so I just had to cut that off. And then I was looking back, and I was thinking, why did I put myself into that position? Like I knew I was taking on too much work there. Why did I do that? And I realized it was like I've just got this attitude of punishing myself and not being compassionate towards myself. And that, in my opinion, when that goes too far, you stop being compassionate for the people around you as well. Like you kind of the people that are kind of trying to care for you and trying to tell you to slow down a little bit, you start seeing them as like people that are kind of in your way rather than people who are taking care of you. And it's just not good because you start cutting off friends and you stop going out, you stop socializing, and basically the logical end to that is that you just kind of you end up pretty successful from it. Don't get me wrong, but like what is the point in being successful? I said this before before we were recording, but what's the point in being successful if you've got no one around you to kind of celebrate that with? You know, it just means nothing. There's, like so basically, it's just you got to return to that place of balance. Like once you're already in, like once you've got your feet in the industry, you need to let go of that kind of student mindset where you're just working yourself to the bone. It's useful at the start, but you need to let go of it at some point because it'll destroy you. It's not a fun experience. Um, I've heard a lot of people talking about like work life balance and stuff, and personally, it didn't really sink in until I experienced it myself. It's like it's really important, you know, pay attention to that. Anyway, that was a big tangent. I don't know how long I was talking there for, but yeah.
No, no, it's fine. It's fine. You actually raised some really interesting points that I actually want to. I wrote in my notes here that I want to, point out here. First thing, I actually have a question. Is Art Attack a British show, or is it like there's other versions of it?
I don't really know, to be honest. I think it's a British show, but it's a kids show. You know, it's not it's something you that you watch when you're a kid in England, and like most of the time it's like your classic arts and crafts thing where you load up like a toothbrush with paint and start splatting it all over a piece of paper, and yeah, that stuff even as a kid was like, yeah, but I just want to draw things. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, the reason I asked that is because, well, I don't know if, of course, if any of you dear listeners are Iranian like me or lived in Iran, you know the situation. But for people who don't know, basically, that was one of my favorite shows as well as a kid. Now,
oh really?
here's why I
Yeah.
said the previous sentence is because in Iran, even right now, let me put it this way: it's like a milder version of North Korea. There's no access.
Oh.
Like everything is basically filtered on internet. I mean, I said milder because
Hmm.
it's not yet national internet and everything and all that jazz.
Hmm.
And even when I was a kid, during like it was like early 2000s or something, the main source of like an outside entertainment or thing because at that time internet wasn't that common in in Iran, countries like that. We had
Hmm.
satellite TVs were super common, which is to this day is still legal. um and with satellite TVs, and it was actually super illegal. There was always crackdowns on it because there
This
was
was
a
while
lot
you were a
of.
kid.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it still has it is still is happening right now, by the way.
Hmm.
But the thing is that, yeah, I remember there was some major entertainment satellites. One of them was called Hotbird, I think, which broadcasts a lot of like European channels and everything. Like I remember Super RTL was a main German one. I used to love watching German dubbed SpongeBob SquarePants and also Art Attack and Augie, the French cat cartoon. I don't know if you saw that or not. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, in that terms, I clearly remember Art Attack. The house show was the guy would just. It was basically, how on TikTok there's a lot of these TikToks of art tags, like doing like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was basically the older version of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in a less cringy way,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah. I used to love it when I was a kid. That is. I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like every kid watches Art Attack in the UK. Like, I mean, I don't even know if it's still going, but when I was a kid, everyone did. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next thing I want to mention from the stuff you said was that you said I was super lucky, like that I had this opportunities and all of that. But
Mm.
I mean, to an extent, I might agree because, like the term RNG in video games,
The what? Sorry.
the term of RNG.
RNG. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Random
it's
number
it
generator. Yeah.
exactly, but
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing in life. Like it depends, like where you're born, some opportunities. But in this, like to an extent, I agree with you, but to an extent, not. Because if we focus on what you said, which I'm going to repeat again, you said in the art class, my art teacher, like she saw my talent and passion and drive, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently her brother was working at Lucid Games, so that
Mm.
wasn't luck. You were doing what you love. You were following your passion, and along the way, people will take notice, and opportunities
Yeah.
will just come by you. Like you basically,
Huh.
by following your passion, things like I know it kind of sounds like kind of like sappy inspirational stuff, but like it's not. It's actually legit. It's a legit thing in life. If you follow your passion, opportunities related to that thing will arise,
It's like
one way or another.
manifestation, isn't it? You always hear people talking
Yeah,
about
I don't want to call
manifestation.
it.
I know you were
It's kind of sound
skating
like that.
around that. You were skating around that.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And yeah, sorry, go on. Is there anything you want to add?
But sorry, yeah. I don't know. I guess it's just a case of like maybe I worked hard and the opportunities that I saw were. I feel like there was an element of luck involved, but it was kind of like um, at the same time I was ready for it when the opportunities arrived. So like if I never worked hard, the opportunities would like I wouldn't have been able to act on them.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
And the next thing which I'm extremely fascinated by is that you mentioned your main inspiration was Feng Shui, and you have no idea how many people said the same thing that has come on this podcast.
yeah, he
That
was one of the
oh
OGs,
the
wasn't he?
yeah the reason I got into concept art was because of Feng Shui. I saw his works on YouTube and Art Station and DeviantArt, and a lot of people said this, and it's
Yeah,
actually really interesting to me.
yeah,
And he's actually one of the main people that I try to message like in the beginning of the podcast. But of course, like the quality was bad and anything, and I'm not sure he probably didn't even see the message or anything. It's probably lost in his inbox.
yeah.
But yeah, that's actually going to be a real honor for me if I could have him on for an
That'd be
interview.
amazing. I'd love to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
What an honor it would
then
be to talk to the great Feng Zhu. Yeah.
yeah. And another thing the last thing I want to point out from this segment was that you said, "What's the point of being successful if there's someone to show about?" Well, I mean, like there are like some aspects to this sentence, but for me personally, like I'm fine being alone, like even being
Yeah.
successful alone. Like here's the
Yeah.
thing: imagine, like I'm kind of like that crazy person that gets like marooned on an island alone,
Mm.
and like after 30, 40 years, like people discover him's island, and the island is just full of creations and stuff and art and drawing
Mhm. Yeah.
like I can keep myself occupied, basically. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I
Because
think personally for me,
mhm.
I'm kind of like I'm smack bang in the middle of being an extrovert and an introvert. So I'm actually like I'm quite good at like flipping between the two when I need to. Like I can easily just disappear into my own world of art and not see anyone for a week, and I'll love it, right? But then eventually, like the extrovert inside of me is like, oh, you need to go to see people. Like you've been on your own for too long. So I think it just comes down to like just personality, doesn't it? Like if you don't have that need to like have other people around, then that's just you just don't. That's just you, isn't it? Like I don't know. Like everyone's different, I guess. I suppose. Yeah, I suppose
No, I
that's it.
mean you're totally right. Like I'm not like here's the point that I made. I think I miscommunicated. If there's a need for me to be alone, I can deal with that. But of course, I
Yeah.
mean, I enjoy like hanging around to people I like, and talk about and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, so here's the thing: like my introversion is not that stereotypical introversion. Like
Yeah.
I like being alone and solitude, but I also like being alone with my friends. Like here's the thing: I don't like parties, I don't like discos, I don't like bars or stuff like that. I just don't.
Yeah.
It's I don't have fun. I'm not myself. But for example, in a house party or stuff with the friends that you're comfortable with, good.
I totally
Kind of
agree.
like that.
I think we're quite
Yeah,
similar.
yeah,
Yeah. It feels more intimate at like a house party, doesn't it? Or
yeah. Exactly.
maybe at a pub. Like you're around the people that you care about. and you don't have just random, just I don't, like people that I don't know just annoy me a little bit. I don't know. Generally, yeah, I won't go off on that tangent.
Yeah, exactly. And all right, let's move on to the next section, which is I want to ask you. Of course, I mean I already mentioned and we talked about that you're a concept artist. You know, wow, what a surprise at this point.
Yeah.
But the question is, what is your main branch of design in concept art that you're focusing on, and tell us about your experience from the start of it until now. Well, I mean, just let me just say one thing before you start answering is that you've worked on some video games in Lucid Games. Like one of them was Switchblade, which is like I checked it out. It was like Rocket League mixed with some action stuff.
It's kind of like a MOBA. It's like
Yeah,
I suppose the Rocket League analogy. It's like Rocket League World of Tanks with a
yeah,
MOBA.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that was a fun game to. That was my first game. That was a fun game
Oh,
to start off on. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, concept art, and then I also do some illustration stuff as well. I don't know. Primarily, I'm an environment concept artist. Uh, However, I can be versatile. I can go and do other stuff. It's just the environment stuff is where I find the most satisfaction. I just enjoy that the most. I suppose maybe it comes down to that's the area of it that I'm best at. Maybe that comes from starting with Feng Zhu because he seems to be primarily environment based. I mean, he does other stuff, but I think I've always just focused on environment stuff. Yeah, I don't really know how else to expand on that. I like environments. That's
same.
kind of that's the area that I'm kind of in at Lucid. I'm in the environment team. I primarily support them, but yeah, that's
All
pretty
right.
much it.
And actually, like, I want to actually ask you something. Because here's the thing. Like, I'm just gonna give a quick background of my own art journey. I've always loved art and like being creative and stuff like that. And not to go off on a tangent so much, but here's
Mm,
the thing that happened. First, I loved art, but I didn't really pursue it because in my head I was
mm.
like, I can't make money of it. I can't put my life on it. And my mom
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say you should have it as a hobby and get along with your main thing, your engineering, whatever you're doing. It's a hobby. It's You can't have a job with it.
Mhm,
And I mean, from the perspective of the Middle Eastern parents, I mean that kind of makes sense, you
mhm.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't do that. So but still, I loved art and creativity and just visual arts and everything. So what I did was I got into graphic design and started learning,
Same.
especially started with logo design and stuff like that. I've been actually using Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator now that I think of it for 7, 8 years now. Time
Yeah.
flies. And after that, yeah, I went through some stuff. I did some drawing. I got a good understanding of fundamentals, like not completely, but just brief understanding.
Yeah.
And right now, all right, just flash forward to everything to today. Like in the past couple of weeks, I've realized that the main niche I want to focus on is on environment art because that's what I love. I love world building, and that's how my mind works,
Mm,
in terms of creativity mostly. Because
mhm,
here's the thing. Here's actually this is a good trick and tip in everything, for anyone who's listening and when you're indecisive whether what to pursue. So imagine you multiple, for example, three majors, all right? Maybe in a university major, right? You could apply to arts niche as well, all right? You'll love them all. They all intrigue you. They all interest you. So when you factor all of that from the equation of these three variables, you have to the main most important variable you should judge your any option you have on how which to pick is which one is more fun for you. Fun is the main variable I think people should look out when trying to pick their the thing they want to pursue. Like for example, for me, world building and just environment art is the most intriguing and exciting thing for me. Like for example, characters, I love it, but not it's not like, for example, here's the thing. What thing, for example, in art example, would you be willing to work on and get good at to reach mastery for your whole life? I know it's kind of like a stupid question, but actually it's really helpful. And for me, that was environment art. For maybe for someone else, it's character art. Maybe for someone else, it's just fashion design or something. So definitely this type of questions and scenarios, if you make them in your head when you're indecisive and you're just crippled by paradox of choice, might be handy.
Hmm.
And with all that tangents aside, let me actually get to my point. So I've got my hands on the newly released Ahmed Al Duri course. I don't know if you know him. And
The
I'm
what? Sorry,
still
what was that?
Ahmed Al Duri. Do you know him?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, actually, he's a famous character concept artist and character designer, stuff like that. I
All
actually
right,
had him on the podcast.
let me
Um,
look more.
yeah, no worries. And the thing that I want to say is that I'm still doing the task and assignments of the course, but I realized that what, I'm just gonna jump into environments that I like. So I bought like a mini 4-hour course on Udemy on how to do environment tasks. It had 3 projects,
Hmm.
and the thing that shocked me and realized that most like practices and just making environments and scenes were like the 0 to 100 of them are not drawn out. Like every detail is not drawn out. They use
Hmm.
custom shapes a lot.
Mhm.
um like there's like basically like I don't want to say cheese the process, but you have to kind of like, I think in the industry it's just like you kind of cheese the process, use custom
Yeah.
shapes and patterns and stuff like that, because you want to get a product done quickly. You can't keep like work on it to like a masterpiece or something.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that. I was like, wow, I should actually learn this stuff, because
I
the
think
only
I
thing I
think there's
was
a.
focused on. Sorry, you found it saying it.
Sorry, go for it. Go for it.
Oh, sorry. So the thing is that I always thought, all right, you should first master your fundamentals, lighting and dynamics and everything, and that's when you're gonna try to do your like those scenes and this cool stuff you like. But most of the cool stuff that I thought were just drawn out 0 to 100 were just mostly done with custom shapes and really pre-made
Yeah.
assets, and I was actually
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah. The fundamentals are definitely important, but I think yeah, like you say, there's a lot of cheating involved. I like the way Shadi Safadi approaches it. Are you familiar with him? The guy who runs One Pixel Brush.
Yeah, I think I know
He's
him. I think he's Iranian as well.
he might be actually. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a GDC talk, and he talks about, yeah, fundamentals are good and everything, but it's like you just got to cheat your way through it. Just who needs perspective? Use 3D. Who cares? Like so he kind of has that sort of approach, but he doesn't completely disregard the fundamentals. They're still important and everything. Um, and also you kind of you talk a lot about like I don't know. I think you were alluding to like having leaving things quite loose as well, like maybe not spelling out every single detail in the piece. And like I think I need to work on that a lot. I think I overpaint my pieces. I put way too much detail in. But at the same time, I think there's a time and place for actually putting the detail in. I think at the start of a project you should be really loose and just you're not looking for every detail because we're not building it yet. You know what I mean? It's like just keep it loose, establish the general look and feel and everything, and then you can do the tight, refined stuff when the time comes to actually go and build it. Like you do like maybe you call out a prop or something, and then you'll get that really tight and refined, and then pass that onto a 3D artist. Because if you think about it, like a 3D artist can't really build a messy brush stroke. I mean, it looks nice, but it doesn't give them much information to build. But that's not the goal of the painting at the start of the project. Yeah, I think it's useful to know how to do both. I think is what I'm alluding to there. Also, I'm slightly distracted because a wasp has just flew in, and I don't know if you saw it, but it literally landed there on me while you were
No,
talking, and
no,
then
I
I
didn't.
just flicked it off while you were talking, and it's literally just on the wall there, just kind of angrily staring at me. I keep on looking at
It's
it, hoping that it doesn't move, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. If it starts flying around the room, I might have to like pause for a second and go and catch it or something. But
no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I
he's
mean, is
he's
it
just
those
kind of
like big
staring.
ones or is it the hornet?
I think it's a hornet. Uh, Yeah, it'd be fine. It's not a big one, but
Oh,
he's just
it's
kind
one
of
of
angrily
those.
staring at me.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
he's
Yeah,
not. He's
actually,
not.
today I was running and yeah, bees are not that like the hornet ones. I think could get aggressive, but I actually today on my run in the park, I like there was a like bee that was kind of like dangling around, couldn't walk, and I was about to run on it, and I just picked it up, and
Yeah.
they're so dumb. Like I just kept trying to pick them up, and it would just run away.
Yeah.
Like I'm not danger.
I love the way when a bee comes into your house and it's like it can't see glass. I just find it so amusing that it just flies into the window constantly. It's like the open window's there, just fly through the open window and you're flying into glass. Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, I mean the thing I heard about UK is that you guys don't have roaches that much, do you?
No, you don't see them often. We do have them, but you don't see them
But they're
often.
not those big ones, right?
No, no, no. You see,
Oh, we have them here.
you tend to see little ones in like dirty hotels and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
cabinets and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, I actually once I was recording a podcast and I realized there was like behind my curtain, I saw the silhouette of it just walking on my window,
Ooh.
and I just and it was here. I was actually you don't see that my room, but yeah, it's funny how these tangents go on. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I hope
The
the listeners who are listening are enjoying this
yeah, the wasp
miscellaneous
right now.
stuff.
The wasp right now is actually on my door. So in order for me to get rid of it, I'm gonna have to open the door to get a cup to catch it in. And if I open the door, it's gonna start going mental and flying all over the room. So I'll just leave him as he is for now. Just hope he.
Yeah, but feel free to smack it if you had to.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to a poor little wasp. He's just living his life. I don't want to smack a wasp. He doesn't. He
No, I
didn't
mean,
choose to be a wasp. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. Uh, I think he's just
all
chilling over
right.
there anyway. Let's stop
Yeah, he's
talking
just
about
vibing.
wasps. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's actually name
art
him.
stuff.
George is a good
Yeah,
name for a wasp, is it?
I think George is pretty good. Yeah, he looks
Yeah,
like George.
George the Wasp is the co-host of this episode.
Yeah.
All
Featuring
right.
George.
All right, so let's move on to the next thing, which is how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a project?
Okay. When you say project, you mean like, say for example, like a game as a whole, like a game that I'm gonna
No, 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 like a piece. Like
just
when
a
you want to
piece.
do a
Okay.
piece. Yeah, yeah.
I think I've learned to value reference a lot. I literally Okay, so it's very different between personal work and professional work. With personal work, there's obviously there's a phase of coming up with the idea first, right? And so with the ideas kind of just come from just anywhere. Like, so maybe I'll have like a weird dream, and I'll kind of like I'll morph that into an idea, or I don't know, maybe I've just seen a couple of different things. Like, I don't know, there's two separate ideas that I've seen somewhere else, and I just put them together to make a new thing. Like, that's another source of ideas. And so I kind of every maybe like once a week, maybe not so. I don't know. I just kind of sit down and I just sketch up all of the ideas that I've kind of accumulated, uh, and just get them down. And sometimes you think an idea is like really good in your head, and you sketch it down, and it's like that is just not good. Like it looks horrible. I can't get this to work. It looks good in your head, but not on paper. And then other times, an idea that you thought was kind of not great ends up working really well on paper. So yeah, there's an ideation phase of just sketching, and they're not presentable sketches. They're just to get the idea down. Like, and then after that, when I've picked what I want to do, or at this point, if it was professional work, I would be given a brief. I then just sit down, get PureRef open. If anyone doesn't know, PureRef's just it's a program where you can just throw reference onto it, and it's basically builds a mood board, right? So I sit down and I go through, just troll the internet for reference that relates to the idea, and kind of have like different sections. I have like a mood section, and maybe that consists of like stills from a movie, or maybe I'm not ashamed to say it. Sometimes other people's art, just you can take inspiration from other artists. That's okay. Um, and then there's more reference that kind of breaks down the details, and that'll maybe if there's like mechanical stuff involved, I'll look at like the real life versions of those mechanical things or whatever, for example. And then if I feel like the idea of like if I can see the image clearly in my head, at that point, then I'll just jump into Blender and just start blocking out the scene, just building up the composition, and then do a little lighting pass, and then once I've got the composition, color, lighting kind of strong, then I'll start throwing in maybe some kit bash assets or a bit of mega scans stuff here and there, and then render. Obviously, there's a phase where if you need to build stuff yourself, then you do that, then render, and then just give that the final paint over, and that's kind of my general process. Similar every time, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, and well, in this section, I want to actually talk about some, I wrote on my notepad this section general art chat, which I talk about miscellaneous stuff and some artworks of the artist. So it's kind of like a nice break from all the the formal questions.
Yeah.
The first thing is that I want to talk about some of the stuff you worked on. Which one of the games is Switchblade, which we briefly mentioned, and I think the other one is um, Destruction All Stars, which
That's
is
the
I
one.
think another card game.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience working on them and just in general the whole story.
Um. Well, I don't know. I've got to be careful here. I don't know what I am and aren't allowed to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I think I don't know.
Well, just as episode 81 had like a brief cut out in the editing because some internet connection was happening back then with Mr. Ali Bahmani, and I had to edit it kind of like that, two separate recordings, and it actually happened in this episode, but with a different reason. Like if you guys remember George the Hornet, I mean, I by the way, I appreciate if any of you could do a fan art of George the Hornet for this
Brilliant
episode,
idea.
and he was kind of like not being a good Hornet, it was kind of like
He wasn't a good podcast guest. He started threatening my life. I
yeah,
was fearing for my life there. I had to put it
yeah,
on pause.
yeah.
Had to be disposed
Yeah,
of.
and he threatened to sue us, so we had to escort them
Yeah.
out. See, even
He's
even I don't want to say him or her because they might sue me,
no,
sue my
yeah.
podcast,
Well, he's okay. Well, he slash she. He's okay. He's okay.
They're
I just
okay. They're
disposed of him.
okay. They're okay. They're
They're
fine.
okay.
And all right, so the thing we
No,
were
no
talking,
animals were harmed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was safely guided outside. All right, so the thing we were talking about was some of the works you've done, the video games you've done, and you said some stuff. You said explain some aspects of them, like how you worked on them, but because you weren't sure if there's the NDA covers,
Yeah.
there's some stuff you can talk about which you're not sure on whether you can talk about it freely or not. So we're just gonna skip that part.
I think it's just a case of I'm scared that I will say the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually totally understandable.
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing I want to actually ask you about is you earlier you mentioned about work life balance, and
Hmm.
and I think listening through some of the stuff you said, you seem to have this kind of like competitive spirit in you, like you type of like a
Oh
type A
yeah.
personality, and I'm kind of the same way as well. But speaking of games, we talked about games like the games you did. I want to ask you like what are your favorite games that you played since you were a kid? And let's talk about video games a bit.
Well, yeah, we talk about the competitive spirit kind of thing. I've always loved very competitive games. I don't know. Played a lot of Quake 3, CS:GO. I used to play. It's probably quite obscure now, but Dirty Bomb. That was a fun game. I played competitively in that for a bit, and but yeah, we were talking about this while we went recording a little bit. It was like I like those games consumed me. It was like I'd just put so many hours into them, and I mean, at some point you got to make a decision. Am I gonna go and make some money doing, a job, or do I become like a pro gamer or something like that? And I mean, I don't think I had it in me. I don't think I would have been able to be a pro gamer, And my heart lies elsewhere. My heart lies with art. So I just decided to go and play art. And do you know what? Go and play art. Go and do art. Um, I, I've kind of I don't really play games anymore. I just stay away because I know that I definitely have a tendency to just get lost in them, and it's just like I'm playing CS:GO 8 hours a day. It's not good, man. you know, I mean, you were talking about you had similar experiences with it a little bit, I think, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing games, but for me, I take it too far. So, but
Yeah, I can
it
totally,
satisfied
relate to that.
it's yeah, it satisfied that competitive spirit in me more than art does. Just want to get to the
Yeah.
top of the ladder, get global elite in CS:GO.
Yeah, I mean, I think with something like art is like it's a long process, and we want to, indulge that need for competitiveness quickly, and games, give that.
Mm.
You can just quickly play a match, win, boom, done.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, there's that dopamine. I've been looking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I actually wanted to ask you was you mentioned earlier in one of the questions, and the question specific was, how does your design process usually go? You mentioned
Mm.
that sometimes from your dreams you get some ideas, for your
Yeah, yeah.
works. And actually, it's funny because I recently added a question to the boilerplate of my questions, which I ask guests on the podcast: is, have you ever used your dreams as inspiration for your work? Is there any work that you can right now point out that said, yeah, that main idea came from a dream?
Do you know what? It's more of a recent thing for me. Let me just look at my portfolio. Um, yeah, the most recent piece that I did, the train wreck, that was from a dream. It wasn't exactly the way it came out, but uh, originally, like, it was just empty. There was a train wreck. There was two guys on top, trying to kind of recover it, and then there was also, you might have to Google something here. Have you ever seen a when a train, like a steam train, when the boiler explodes, it looks mental. Just
Yeah,
if you Google
I think I've seen. Yeah, I think I know what you're
yeah,
talking
train
about.
train boiler explosion. Hang on,
Trust me, I've played enough Factorio to know what would that look like.
yeah. I mean, it's creepy, isn't it? Like,
Actually, it's one of the
it looks
top.
ominous.
Jesus, it's one of actually the top searched terms. Train boiler explosion.
Oh, really? That's
Yes.
strange. So have you recently searched it, or
No, no, no. It's my first time I searched.
okay? Yeah, it's just got a really strange vibe to it, doesn't it? It
It's,
looks really weird.
it's like a
So that was kind of
Lovecraftian monster.
yeah. It looks like Medusa or something. And when you look at it, it petrifies you a little bit, doesn't it? It turns you to stone, such as like Medusa would. Um, yeah, creepy stuff. So yeah, that was actually in the original sort of sketch that I did. For that, I had that boiler explosion at the front, but then I started adding in more characters, and I just thought, oh, it's kind of getting a bit much. There's too much going on, so I decided to get rid of that. And also, for anyone who hasn't ever seen an image like that before, doesn't really know what's going on with that, it's like, what is that? Like, I feel like it might confuse people. But anyway, yeah, that train one had its base in a dream, and then recently I've got a few other sketches that are kind of I've been working on, like, um, that have kind of like had their origins in dreams. I've been having some very vivid dreams recently, and I think it stems from I don't know if you've ever like looked into Carl Jung or anything before. It's like he's a
No.
psychoanalyst or depth analyst. I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm into
Highly recommend
psychology and stuff like that, but not Carl Jung in particular.
highly recommend reading Carl Jung, because you'll start having crazy dreams, and you'll start kind of realizing maybe what they're alluding to, what they mean a little bit. But I've just recently read Man and His Symbols. That's a brilliant book. You should definitely read that if you're interested in that stuff. Um, but yeah, he's got an interesting
All right.
reputation. Carl Jung. He's I don't know. It's
Interesting. Like
definitely it's definitely
600.
good reading.
Yeah. It's 606 pages. Jesus.
Yeah, it's worth a read. Definitely worth a read.
Or I
If you're
could
interested.
I could read the book, or I can search it on YouTube, and there's someone made a 20-minute video on explaining the whole thing.
Yep, could do.
Um, we live in a
Could do.
fantastic age. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I love YouTube.
yeah. Audiobooks are good as well, but I have a problem. I have a problem with audiobooks. I can't maintain focus on it, and especially if I'm
Yes,
working while I'm doing
yes.
it. Like I realize I've not listened to the past 5 minutes of the audiobook. I've just my mind's been off somewhere else. So I think for me, I have to like read it on a page because I can kind of like just focus on it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Um,
definitely like that as well.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
and
Interesting stuff. That.
all right. So we already know that one of your favorite concept artists is Feng Zhu, but the next question is, who are your favorite other artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Um, ooh. Well, I'd be lying if I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are ashamed to admit when they get a lot of their inspiration from the ArtStation homepage. It seems unfashionable, doesn't it? But I'd be lying if I said that I didn't get a lot of inspiration from the homepage. You know, it's just like it's literally just a never-ending stream of like amazing artwork and you know just constantly inspiring me. Um, can also have negative effects. You can kind of get a bit envious of some of the artists, but anyway, um, I think specifically some of the artists that have kind of like always just been like just inspiring me constantly. Obviously, Fengzu, uh, and then I think when I was kind of just a couple of years into concept art, all the Last of Us One concept art started to come out, and all those Naughty Dog guys like they inspired me so much. It was like, okay, there's something to aim for. I want to be as good as them one day. Uh, I'm nowhere near it. They're outstanding. I can't compare to them. But yeah, Macheku Sierra as well. I love his podcast. Just always got that on in the background. He seems to have taken a hiatus, but uh, yeah, he's got a great podcast. Art Cafe. Um, Ash Thorpe,
Oh yes,
great
I know the
podcast.
guy. Yeah,
Which
actually,
Macheku Sierra.
I think his profile picture on Instagram is a drawing of a woman. I think he did. Is it the same guy?
Possibly. I can't
Yes,
remember his
it's
profile picture
art.
to
I
be
know
honest.
Art Cafe. The
Art
Mark.
Cafe.
He is a Polish guy, I think. Right?
Yeah. He used to work at Naughty Dog. Uh,
Mm.
he'd worked on Last of Us One, I think. Yeah, that's kind of where I discovered him, and I've just always been following him since. Uh, yeah, Ash Thorpe. He's not specifically a concept artist. He's just kind of like what even is he? He's just an artist. He just does everything. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's what he wants to come across as well. He doesn't want to pigeonhole himself. That's quite inspirational. I really like his mindset, and I love kind of listening to his podcast and taking on some of his mindset a little bit. Jama Jorobayev, uh, just I just love how innovative he is. If it seems like he does something first, and then the whole community just follows. Like he started using Blender, and then a year later, everyone's using Blender. You know, he's always first there. like, um, yeah. Hmm. With Blender, Ian Hubert. Have you heard of him? Uh,
Yeah, I think.
he,
Yeah.
he's got his YouTube videos are really good. His Patreon's really good as well. He does these lazy tutorials, he calls them, and they're essentially a tutorial that's just a minute long, right? But it's hilarious because he's literally like he's building something that would take if someone else was to do that tutorial, it'd be a 40-minute tutorial, and he condenses it down into a minute, and it's like, listen, this is how you do it. It's dead quick, jump cuts and everything. It's really entertaining. He's really funny with the way he does it as well. But there's a lot to learn from him as well if you're gonna get into like Blender, I guess.
Yeah, I think
And
he's
then
active on Twitter as well, right?
yeah, I don't have Twitter, but I
Uh,
assume he is. um, uh, some there's a lot of artists that have wrote some really good books as well. I've recently read Edgar Payne's book. composition on outdoor painting. He's kind of quite an old school painter. One of them old masters that people talk about. James Gurney's got some brilliant books. Scott Robertson, brilliant again. Yeah, I can't really think of any of those, but yeah,
All right.
it's hard to pin it down on any one person. Just take little pieces from a wide range of artists.
Yeah. And actually, good thing that you brought up Art Cafe, because I want to say some stuff. I actually found is like when I started my podcast, I also researched and googled a lot of podcasts as well, to see, if my
Mm.
idea has been done before. And I mean, it's not like
Hmm.
a super like vague idea. It's something so general that 100%
Mm.
someone has done it. But
Hmm.
the idea I'm doing is still nothing. The closest thing that someone has done close to my idea was, of course, um, Art Cafe. But the thing is, the main difference between me and him is, of course, I mean, his stuff is amazing, and I'm
Mm.
actually a fan. But if you
Hmm.
see it, like most his guests are like super, like top of the food chain artists, and
Mm.
it's actually great content. I'm not complaining or anything.
Yeah.
But my philosophy behind that is, beside that, is that I think everyone, as I said, I think earlier before we started, that
Hmm.
regardless of a skill level and when you started or stuff like that, if someone who's a creative and there's a passion and creative juice inside them, they must be thinking about art 24 hours, subconsciously or consciously. So what it means is that each individual at those type of level, as long as they're creative, they have a unique perspective on maybe something, maybe on lighting, or just any aspect
Mm.
of the whole process. And I think it's worth listening to. So and the weird thing is that a lot of times I message people for podcasts and artists. They sometimes they get taken back and say, "Oh, like I'm not like professional or anything like that. That you want to come on my podcast? I'm not a professional. I'm not like."
Yeah.
And I understand why they would say that, but when I explain to them my philosophy, sometimes they still get taken back and say, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable. I don't think I'm that good enough to be worth talked about." And I'm like, okay. And sometimes people, accept, and they come on a podcast and we have great conversations.
Mm.
And the main thing I want to drive home with this stuff I'm saying right now, or rambling right now at this point, is that there's always opportunity to learn and grow, even
Mm.
from artists that you might not think they're that great or something or anything like that, which even saying it kind of sounds weird.
Yeah.
And
Look past the follow account. Everyone knows
yes,
something that
basically
you
that's what
don't.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has knowledge that you don't have. It's always worth talking to people, isn't it?
It's not about not having or having the knowledge, it's about the perspective,
Yeah.
because each
Yeah.
each perspective is 100% unique,
Hmm. That's true. Yeah.
and
It's a good
and
way
I,
of looking at it.
yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, he has people. And by the way, the like Shadi Safadi, the guy you mentioned, like
Yeah.
everyone who's on top of it, like food chain of their thing. And I actually love the podcast. I listen to a lot of it.
Mm.
And but one of the other things that I'm trying to do with my podcast is like at least interview 1,000 artists. That's one of my main goals. And
That is a hefty goal.
yeah, that's one of my legacies. And here's the thing, what I'm trying to do with this, and of course for anyone who's listening, I think it's the first time I'm opening up about this whole project. Like from the get-go, I had a whole grand vision with the what I'm gonna do.
Mm.
It wasn't like throwing a dart with my blindfold or something. Like everything has direction and directed. I want to, like, as I mean, anyone who listens to the podcast, regularly, they can understand that some of the questions are identical when I ask everyone. There's a boilerplate of questions. Of course, the format of the boilerplate changes from time to time. I add or remove stuff, like I improve it, but some stuff are always there. And after like like thousands or hundred or whatever you name it, interviews, I can put the question and put the answers in front of them and like make it infographic and data like when it comes to
Mm.
learning art and stuff. I ask that from every artist, and I can make
And
it a
kind of
book.
take an average
Yes.
answer kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and make it like a compilation of all this valuable data as a book.
Mm.
Tell
Very
me
cool.
if anyone has ever done that, like made the survey and like in the statistics of, for example, 1,000 or 100 artists, and try to see it together.
That is a
L-
really cool idea. I've
like
never
that,
heard of anyone doing that.
people don't understand data like this is more valuable for me. Like if I get like if I could have a choice between, and I know, and a lot of people say are gonna call bullshit on me or something. If I could have a choice between like having that information right now, like legit information like right now, getting to the episode 1,000, which of course I think technically it should be 1,001 because the first episode was me talking for 5 minutes as a pilot episode. um, if I could have the information ready now, or I could have like I don't know $100,000, I wouldn't pick the $100,000 because it could change my life. Sure, I mean it does everyone, but the thing that I find fulfilling in this life is to successfully leave a legacy on my own, do something, like
Hmm.
I'm happy with being a waiter or a janitor somewhere, but actually being able to do that, then I don't know, even have like $1 million and not do that and just be some NPC, like just living normally,
Yeah.
like that
Who
doesn't
cares
sound
about
exciting
money?
to me.
You don't want money. You want fulfillment. You want purpose.
Don't get me wrong, I want money, like who doesn't,
Yeah.
like of
Obviously,
course.
money's good.
but
Yeah.
but the most important thing for me is that that's sort of like living my own legacy when I feel fulfilled, when I do something, I contributed in the history of something.
And that sounds like a pretty big contribution to me. That's a brilliant idea.
And of course, like 1,000 is just a minimum thing I just put, and
Yeah.
but maybe I
How
do it
how
more.
would how would you maybe take everyone's answers, and how would you display that as a statistic?
All right, that's actually a really interesting point you just made. Believe it or not, like maybe the answer to every questions like right now ranges from 1 to 10, like different answers. You know what I mean? Like it's not that hard to like summarize them into like statements or actions.
So people tend to have similar answers, like
Yeah,
quite often. Yeah, yeah.
yes, and some of them that
So what you maybe are alluding to with this is there are multiple ways into the industry, but there is a best way. There is one best way, maybe.
it's kind of hard to say that, but yeah, I'm kind of going with that. Like, all right, I'm
Yeah,
sorry I don't have a screenshot on this podcast, so but I have a pen and paper. So, all right,
cool.
let me
I'm not
just.
I'm not sure it'll display very well though on the
Nah, it's
webcam. It's
fine.
quite
All right, you see, there's an A and B diagram, all right,
okay. Yeah,
and in the intersection, like here, all right, you saw that visual because it's important to what I'm going to explain. Now, this is just two A and B. Now, imagine if it's 1,000, all right? And in the intersection of all those, there are similarities, between every artist's, methodology and the way they do things, their opinions. And I want to draw out those in betweens because that's where the truth lies. I think
okay.
because here's the thing, and the more the sample size increases, the better answer we get, about
Yeah,
everything. Because here's the thing, like if you ask anyone or any art, any person, even maybe, well, not me, but most people, when you ask them how to draw, how to start drawing, they say, oh, you start with fundamentals, you go to a course or do
hmm,
that, you this, and that's absolutely the right answer, don't get me wrong, but
hmm.
here's how I actually learned drawing. you know I like I've said this story a million times by now too, because there's different guests, but I'm just gonna say it too because I haven't told you. Is like, long story short, it was summer of 2018. I was like, as I said before, I loved drawing all the time. I was into graphic design, but I wanted to break into drawing. So it was summer of 2018, and I was in a really dark place at the time in my life, and I wanted to do something like thing like I realized the thing that would kind of make me happy is some sort of fulfillment, and that some sort of fulfillment was following what I like and being able to do what I like, which was drawing.
Hmm.
So I open up YouTube as always when I want to learn or do something, and I searched how to draw. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And wait, it gets interesting. And there's some results popped up. And the top one was a video made by the channel of Cartoon Block. I don't know if you know the YouTube channel.
I don't
Uh,
think so.
and the thing is, the video was how to draw Jon Snow because At that time, it was popular or something,
Mm.
and it was like a 10 minute follow along video. So I brought my A4 papers and pencils and pens and everything, and I started drawing as the guy said, and the end result did not look like Jon Snow. I mean, suffice to say, but it was something that I could never do in my just it was something that I could never, but I couldn't believe that I actually done this. Like it was something.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah,
start kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, it was a weird. It looked like the weird cousin of Jon Snow, but it was still someone.
Mm.
And that kind of gave me a little momentum. I liked it. I
Mm.
signed it and I went and put a date on it, and everything. And I did the same thing tomorrow. I think the second drawing was Groot or something from
Mm.
Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. Then the next is something else, then something else, and by day 5, 6, I started to put the papers on the wall like chronologically from top left to right and bottom
Mm.
like that on the wall of my room. And I was like, and the video game gamer inside of me was like, this is exciting.
I'm leveling up.
Yes, and you know what I did at that time? 100-day drawing challenge. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
And long story short, I did it, by the way. And yeah, I that kind of competitiveness helped me to actually when I want to do something or reach something, I
Mm.
put a challenge for myself related to that. And so
I think mileage is so important as well. Like
yes,
just sheer volume of work is
yeah,
probably the most important in improving in
yeah.
one aspect.
And the thing that happened, like I started drawing. I had to, in the beginning, I had to like watch the video and just pause and rewind back and see. And by day 8, 9, I was like, this is boring. I don't need to do that. I'm just gonna skip to the end and see the end result and draw from there.
Mhm.
What happened there? A really
Yeah.
important thing. The skill that no one realizes that is super important to art and drawing: hand-eye coordination.
Mm. Mm.
Like I learned all this stuff intuitively. I didn't watch like didn't went to a course or anything, and I realized this stuff years after.
Right.
You know,
Maybe you already had an advantage in that department with playing games.
um, in terms of like setting a structure for myself to do stuff, maybe, but
Yeah. Yeah.
art wise, no, honestly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like this sort of methodologies and stuff is super important. For example, my methodology, that stuff I learned, put into another one diagram with someone else, and we could derive some similarities between those.
Mm.
And the end result of these two information is a much more overall better information about how
Mm.
to learn art. And that's my main goal. Like I try to explain this as scientifically and as statistically as I could. So if I drive out like milk all the conclusion of everything, all the interviews I've done, and I put them together. And not just, here's the thing, I don't have just visual artists in my podcast. I have photographers. I actually had the origami artist 2 days ago. Like the guy was a genius
That's
in
mad.
origami. And yeah, just creativity. There's a core in
Mm.
creativity. There's some certain biases that us as humans have when it comes to learning stuff which are creative. And I
It'd be
mean
quite it'd be quite interesting to do personality tests on all artists and then make an average personality sort of makeup as well.
yeah, I
Like
mean that's
this
actually
is the
interesting,
personality of an
but
artist.
no, I mean that's actually interesting, but the data is, I don't see where the data could be useful. But
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah, it's probably not as useful.
yeah, but for the methodology and common questions that I ask, is I think the data could be it's kind of kind of important.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Definitely very useful. The- Yeah, I can see where that would apply.
yeah, and
It's a hefty goal that.
yeah, actually, I want to make it like a huge book, and I actually want to add some of my own experiences and the stuff I learned, and about the whole thing,
That
like
sounds
make it
great.
like a 400, 500 book. That's actually like one of my magnum opus. Is that the term in English?
Yeah, yeah. It's Latin, isn't it? But it still
Oh
applies. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, right. I
yeah.
actually learned that from Skyrim. There was a book. I don't know if you played Skyrim.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, basically there's a
Few games.
Daedric god called Mehrunes. No, that's someone else. Hermas Mora. Oh yeah, I'm geeking out in the middle of the podcast. Sorry, everyone. He's called
It's all
Hermas
good.
Mora, and is the god of mischief and knowledge and everything. And one of the
Mm,
rare items in the game is his magnum opus. And if you open that, you
right.
can increase your stats in like three different sectors and all that. But it's a cursed book, so you know. Why am I
Mm.
spoiling Skyrim for everyone?
Is,
Sorry.
so the magnum opus is just like the holy grail kind of thing. Like it's just
Yeah,
that's like you're always striving for it. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
yeah,
I'm trying to work it out for myself.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right, awesome. And all right, let's move on to the next question. Is
Let's
what
do it.
technologies and softwares do you mostly use for your works?
Well, I've been through a good few uh, softwares, I guess. My first 3D software was like 3D Coat, and then I moved into Maya, and now I'm using Blender. And I used to use just like a lot of different pieces of software, like be one of these people that would use like 5 pieces of software on one piece. Uh, but I've kind of I feel like that's quite chaotic and also destructive as well. Like when you export a model from one um, software into another, then it becomes more difficult to go back and change the model. So it's just, in my opinion, it's better to keep it really simple. And now except in rare occasions, I'm literally just using Blender for all the 3D, and then Photoshop, and that's it. That's all I'm doing because it all just stays in one place, and everything can be edited on the fly. I don't have to go back to like 3D Coat and change stuff in there and then re-export it. It just becomes a lot of hassle. So yeah, Blender and Photoshop. That's it.
All right, and any advice and tips for a good portfolio and resume for artists, considering that you already broke into the industry at such an early age?
hmm. Um, that is a tough one. I I don't think I ever really consciously thought about that so much when I was getting in. I was literally just working on whatever I thought was fun, like whatever I'm interested in. I was just doing the work that I wanted to do. So it was kind of a case of like because I was doing the work that I wanted to do and putting that in my portfolio, the opportunities to do more of that then arise kind of thing. Um, and maybe in some case, like I was lucky because the thing that I wanted to do was kind of like the generally accepted, like commercialized concept art is like it's easily applicable. um Maybe that approach in other cases might take you longer to get into the industry. So basically, if you want to get a job doing what you want to do, then just put what you want to do in your portfolio. If you want to get a job quickly, but you're not too fussed about the specifics of the job, then essentially aim for a studio, look at the artists that are already in there, and try and do stuff like that. That's if you want a job quickly. And then the other approach is if you want a job that you want to do, I guess. I mean, sometimes you might get lucky and you might think this studio kind of suits what I want to do anyway. And in that case, you're quite lucky. So yeah, that was
All
a bit
right.
tangent. I don't think that actually made any sense. Yeah,
No, it
yeah.
was
It
actually
might
pretty
take a bit
short.
longer, but yeah, it might
No,
take
no,
a bit
no.
longer,
It
but
made sense. Just
that'll benefit you in the
make it
long run
work
to
for
do
the
that.
stuff you actually want to
Yeah.
do. Want to work on. Yep. And like for example, this question that I just asked, how what's
Hmm.
which is about art
Yeah,
portfolios. Like imagine
totally.
if I
Yeah.
had answers from thousand
I,
different
th- I think
people
I
and
think
just lined them
another
up,
thing a
and
lot of people say about your portfolio is
that's good
just keep
info.
it. Maybe this doesn't
You know.
apply to Instagram, like, but with
Yeah.
ArtStation or maybe a portfolio website, it's just trim it down, keep it really concise, and just have a small amount of your best pieces, like maybe like 7 or 8 pieces or something like that. Just your absolute best. Just trim off the fat kind of thing. Uh, but like with your Instagram, I think Instagram's different. With Instagram, you can just leave everything there. Just post as much as you want on there. It's a different kind of etiquette on Instagram, isn't it? I feel like I feel like people on ArtStation just want to post their absolute best work. People on Instagram want to post whatever, just post sketches, post working through
Yeah,
it, and like all of that. So there's no rules there. You do what you want.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And well, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? I mean, what kind of
um,
project is it? I mean, of course, if it's something that there's an
well,
NDA
at
involved, we
Lucid,
can
I
skip
can't
right
say
past this
anything.
question. But if
Obviously,
that's
that's
not
an
the case,
NDA.
tell us what are you doing right now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know what? Personal. Oh, I don't know.
I mean, of course, fair enough.
I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm working on at the
What?
moment. I've kind of had this weird shift in mentality recently. I said I've gone from the state of like kind of being self-punishing and thinking I've got to go and work at this AAA studio and I'm not going to stop I'm not going to stop until I've got what I want and all that. And that, like, the advantage of doing that, even though you're not going to be happy when you're doing that, but you have a clear goal in mind. You're like, this is where I'm going. But now that I've kind of shed that mindset, the downside to shedding that mindset, well, obviously I'm a lot happier, but I also, at the moment, I'm not too sure where I want to go now. It's like what the like I find my most fulfillment. I find the most fulfillment in my personal work, and I'd love to just do personal work forever. But it's also very difficult to get paid to just do personal work. So it's like, well, what do I do? So yeah, I'm not really sure what direction to take all that in. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the best thing right now is, from my experience,
Yeah.
talking with a lot of artists and dealing with stuff like this
Yeah. Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Totally.
think at this point, you just need to not think about it at all and just chill and let a little bit of time pass. Because it definitely helps to refresh your mind after a while. But see, as you
It's
said,
good to get in
don't
the
have this
first place, but
self
once you're in,
punishing
get
pressure
rid of
at
it
all, because if you
because it's
have
not
that ball
happy.
chilling, that doesn't work. You should completely
Yeah.
just ditch that. Yeah, exactly. And all right, what area beside the area you're working at right now, which is of course concept art and environment art and all that jazz, is which are you interested to explore and learn in the future? What I mean by that,
Uh,
not just
Actually,
explore and
yeah,
learn in the
I've been
future.
doing
Like,
some animation stuff
what
a
would you
little
like
bit.
to do if you
I
had
haven't
extra
posted
time?
anything yet. I've got a few personal projects, kind of like exploring those workflows at the moment. Um, yeah, I like things that move, uh, and I don't know. I feel like a lot of artists always play with the idea of doing a short film or something like that. And I mean, if you're gonna do that, you got to be damn sure that you want to do that because that's a big undertaking, and it's gonna take you a long time, especially if it's personal work. But maybe something like that, I'd maybe want to get into. Maybe I'll start out with a few, like you always see in NFTs. You get like it's essentially just a moving image, like the camera pans around a little bit. Like uh, I won't be doing it as like an NFT because it's quite controversial. Maybe I'll leave that one as it is for now. But like maybe just something along those lines, just images that have some element of animation. I'd like to do some moving stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do them to explore, your art,
Mm.
art taste and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't think it would work as NFT, and I'm not saying that this to
Mm.
discourage you, but basically, in order to get a foothold in the whole NFT space, because I've been heavily like researching and been in it, and just
Yeah. Yeah.
all of that for months now, and you need to kind of have like
And
some
I've
you
definitely
need
not got that.
to have a
I've got a
presence or
tendency to
personality or
hide
something for
behind
it
my
to even
artwork, and that,
not just work,
like
to
I said,
actually
gives me
get some
first
eyeballs at
first
first,
podcast. I've
to
I've
even
never
do
really
that.
shown my face very much. So yeah, I don't have much of a presence online really. I just post my artwork and then just
Mm.
disappear.
And no, it's not about. Yeah, yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but it's not about face.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to explain it. You need to have basically. All right, the shortest way I could say it, you need to have connections
Mm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
friends
yeah.
in Discord servers, in Twitter, and all of this to even get remotely, noticed,
I thought
because the
I thought you
the
said
whole
super
thing is like
saturated
super
with people, and I was
saturated
like,
with
well, it kind of is, yeah.
people just I
Okay.
don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it. It's just a weird space.
Yeah. Um. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, but
No. No.
yeah.
You got any more questions? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, is there anything you want to add? All right. Yeah. Well, with everything that's been said and done, to conclude all the discussed, please give us a roadmap for someone who is zero in visual arts and wants to get to the place you are in terms of skill set. Like, for someone who is
Um.
here, zero
Okay.
visual arts, and wants to become an environment artist at the level you are
I
right
think
now,
I
what
think be
major
careful
steps
of
should they
your
take to
work
get
ethic.
there?
It's good to have a good work ethic kind of thing. Uh, I'm coming back to the same theme again, I guess. Uh, it's like just be careful. Don't let it like consume your entire life. Um, but at the same time, like it's good to have a drive initially, and then you kind of come to a point where you do need to let off the gas. So just be aware of like work life balance and everything, because it takes you to some dark places if it's out of whack. And then yeah, I think just I don't know. It just comes with time. There isn't really like any key like magic bullet approaches to getting into the industry. It's just you just gotta just wait, just be patient and keep going, I guess. And eventually you get it. It's like the way to not get in is to give up. So just don't give up. You know, that's it. That's all I can say really. Like yeah, yeah.
All right. Pretty straightforward. I like it. And all
Cool.
right, so here's a
Straightforward.
section that I recently added to the podcast, which I think is super duper important, which I kind of regret not doing it earlier from the beginning, which is the last section of the podcast, which is called Final Words. All right, so what it is, all right, I'm just gonna explain. For anyone who's listening right now,
Oh.
we had this like really nice
Wow.
80-minute conversation by now, and yeah,
Yeah, it definitely
the
does.
80 minutes that's been recorded, not the off camera. Yeah. And when you're having fun, time goes fast. I'm just kidding. All right. So the thing is, for anyone who's listening right now, and for anyone who might listen in, like in the future, maybe in days, weeks, years, even might come across this episode and listening at this point of time, if you could leave like a message, like a time capsule, like a message in a bottle for anyone who might come across it,
Oh,
not just in terms of art, like as a human, as
that
an
that
individual,
is
what would you
a
leave the
that's a very
message,
broad
to
question.
the audience? What
That's
message? I know it
surprisingly
might be
broad.
kind of overwhelming, so take your
Um,
time.
oh, I really don't know. I feel like I can't just say the work-life balance thing again, can I? um, this would be my fourth time bringing it up, I think. Just take care
You
of yourself in
absolutely
every
can.
respect. Take care of the people around you. You know, that's yeah.
It's
I guess
fine.
that's it. That's really cheesy. That question threw me off as well. I don't really know what to say to that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not
yeah, definitely, yeah, it works.
nice. Yeah, that kind of was the point, to throw off the artist. No, but honestly, yeah, I mean, honestly, no, I'm kidding. But that wasn't actually the point. But it's definitely
Mm,
something interesting, that not even from artists, that from people you ask, and the answer is usually based on their life experiences, the things they went through, and it basically shows. All right, the purpose of the this section is, generally because it's something interesting to ask people.
mm,
But the other thing is to actually portray the
just
true
what's the
personality of the
core
artist
of the
that,
artist kind of thing.
that's been
Yeah,
asked,
that.
because their answer reflects that. Yeah, the person where we just talked, for a while.
Yeah, my
And
Instagram,
well,
just PM
we've
me,
reached the end of the
or you could
podcast.
email
And where
me
can
if you
people
want.
contact you if
That's
they had any questions? Is your Instagram okay?
robgreen.artist@gmail.com. Um, or message me anywhere you can find me. ArtStation, that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'll
I've
put
had a
the
lot of fun.
Instagram in the captions.
This
No
was
worries
out my
about that.
comfort zone. It was out my comfort zone, but yeah, it
All right,
was fun.
and right. Yeah, my
Thank you for
pleasure.
having
Yeah,
me
it
on.
was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, we've come to the end of the podcast, and
Great.
thank you to everyone who tuned in and listened. I think this episode was kind of like one of the best episodes I recorded in
Mm.
terms of like not being such a like in no in terms of like
Yeah, I agree. That it felt like
not the whole format being so formal and just
yeah,
interview. It was like a free flowing organic conversation, which it took me a lot of practice to get good at that. So
yeah.
I'm kind of glad with that. So thank you everyone who tuned in and listened. I hope you enjoyed the
Everyone
tangents,
just have a
and
little
if there's
think.
any fan
What's
art
George up
for
to right
George the
now?
Hornet, I would
He's just squaring off
definitely
into the
put them
wilderness,
on my
mate.
socials.
Yeah.
And well, yeah. Yeah, you could do the fan art of the episode, if you, for audio listeners, I mean, I'm sorry you probably didn't see the George, but for video listeners on
I'd
YouTube, if
love
you
to
could
see that.
even do fan art of, our screens and George, and, just go about it if you want, it's
See you
fine.
later.
All right. Take care, everyone, and till next episode, take care, everyone, and have a good day. Bye.